lifeless body of a young mother lay for 2 months in this desolate field on the outskirts of Kalamazoo, Michigan.
I walked toward this telephone pole, and as soon as I got just into the tree line from the telephone pole, I could see her over there.
In January of 2017, detectives found Kelly Stanfill partially frozen with 4 gunshot wounds to the head and neck. She was just 36 years old.
Mr. Stanfill is here before the court this afternoon, Your Honor, for sentencing.
At his sentencing a year later, Kevin Stanfill tried to show remorse for murdering his wife. But their home had been a war zone. Beatings witnessed by their 3 young children. Kelly's mother addressed the court.
The way Kelly was murdered and left to rot in a field for 2 months was a horror to me and all who knew her.
Stanfill was sentenced to 26 years behind bars. Kelly is one of 3 women who are murdered every day in this nation by their husbands, boyfriends, or exes.
I told you to leave me the alone.
I've come to Ypsilanti, Michigan, to meet this woman, Nicole Beverly. She is now desperately trying to avoid the same fate as Kelly and so many other victims. Her ex-husband is currently behind bars serving a 5-year sentence for domestic violence and aggravated stalking. But from inside prison, Kevin Beverly has allegedly been soliciting other inmates to help him kill his ex-wife.
You think, oh, finally they're locked up. But approximately once a year, I've gotten a phone call from the Michigan State Police telling me that my ex-husband has attempted to hire someone in prison to kill me.
In 2013, one inmate claimed Nicole's ex, Kevin, offered him $50,000 to, quote, put her in the ground. That's why Nicole is always ready to fight for her life. So you put thought into everything. The car is parked this way for a reason. Why?
For easy escape. I was told to always back in, so if you need to get out quickly, you just jump in and you're gone.
She shows me the precautions she takes every time she leaves the house.
So my keys do have a special keychain.
It looks like a kitty cat, but
it does look like a kitty cat, but the kitty cat has very sharp ears, so that if someone were to surprise me, grab me from behind or whatever, I can just punch them with this.
After you.
Okay.
And then, even once we get in the car, you have safety on your mind at all times. What do you carry with yourself up front?
I do have a stun gun that does look like a cell phone, so it's pretty unsuspecting. I also have what looks like a tube of lipstick, but it's really pepper spray.
You did not set out to marry a monster. You loved him.
Absolutely.
Nicole and Kevin started dating when they were both at Eastern Michigan University.
He was one of the captains of the football team. Funny, charismatic, was focused on school, seemed normal in the beginning. I didn't know any differently when the red flags started happening, to not know the difference between someone loves you so much versus someone's controlling you.
Give me an example.
Subtle put-downs, calling you stupid, and then it might escalate a little bit to when there's an argument, you know, screw you, fat bitch.
After college, Kevin became a semi-pro football player for a while. Then he trained as a police officer, but he found his career in medical sales.
Financially, things really started taking off for him.
They had a baby, Miles, then got married. There were sporadic signs of abuse, yet another baby, Carter, followed. 6 years into the marriage, physical abuse became routine, often in front of the children.
It escalated to pushing me down on the ground, twisting my arm behind my back.
Did you ever have a situation where because he hit you, you had to cover it up?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I became really good at, because my coworkers would say, oh, you know, what happened? Oh, I got hit by a foul ball at baseball. Or, oh, I fell and bumped my elbow. Or, oh, I hit my head on the cupboard.
Who do you tell?
Nobody.
Who knows?
Nobody.
Why didn't you leave?
Because he would follow it up with, I'm gonna change, I love you so much, we're gonna make this work. I believed the things that he said.
But she also believed him when he started to threaten her life.
The specific words he used was, I will hunt you down and I will kill you.
When we come back. Nicole and Kevin Beverly were raising two sons, Miles and Carter, in a house full of family secrets. How did you wind up with a gun being pointed at your head?
His mood was becoming much more volatile. I never knew if he was going to be in a good mood or if he was going to be abusive and negative.
The boys were only 6 and 10 when Kevin decided to get rid of some birds that were making a mess on the property.
He made the decision that he was going to kill the baby birds with a shovel. And my younger son at the time was hysterical because my ex-husband clearly wasn't going to stop. When I got my son and my keys to leave, my ex-husband physically attacked me. I tried to flee through the garage, and he grabbed me by the back of my hair and dragged me back into the house, shut the garage door. He proceeded to choke me. We were in our laundry room area where we had shoes and boots. He was hitting me with those things. He weighed over 300 pounds, and he jumped on me with full force with his knee in my rib cage. And he was hitting me on the sides of my head, top of my head, stomach. Stood up and kicked me several times. He proceeded to hold the gun to my head, and he told me all the reasons he should kill me, that I was stupid, that I was lazy, that I wasn't a good parent, that I didn't deserve to live. He unloaded it, he reloaded it. He was pacing, yelling, screaming.
Nicole says he took her cell phone and car keys.
I remember thinking, do I try to run? Because I might make it out the door, but the likelihood of him shooting me in the back with me running is too great.
The next morning did not bring the usual remorse.
The first thing he said to me is that you owe me an apology for almost making me kill you last night. He now was enjoying the power that he was getting from causing me fear. No matter where you go, I will find you and I will hunt you down and I will kill you.
And you believed all of it?
I believe it, and I still believe it to this day, 100%.
She says she was too terrified of him to call the police.
What I did instead is I called Safe House.
Safe House is the aptly named battered woman's shelter in this county. Barbara Neese-May, the director, thinks the term domestic violence is too mild.
We serve over 5,000 survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence every year right here in Washtenaw County.
5,000 in one county?
In one county. I would say it's at epidemic proportions.
In Michigan alone, on average, 10 women a month are killed by a current or former domestic partner. And the most dangerous time of all is when they leave the relationship. So, on the face of it, it's like you're running a hotel here, but you're running a hotel for the hunted.
Yes.
She says very often it is hard for her clients to come to terms with reality.
Think about when you fell in love. and how wonderful that was and the hope that you have for that relationship.
Hope. I keep hearing that word.
Yes.
How does hope play into this?
Hope is huge in this. They're hoping that this behavior can stop. People quit smoking, people quit drinking. However, when it comes to domestic violence, it is rare for them to stop. They want to control her. Other than this guy's a great guy. He has a great job. He's provided for his family. Has no criminal record. I've heard that a million times.
So if domestic violence doesn't cover it, how do you see it?
Serial assaultive behavior with eventually the intent to kill.
It takes women on average 7 attempts to leave their abusive relationships, according to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. The sobering facts Nicole learned from Safe House forced her to face her situation, even though she was worried about supporting her 2 kids on her social worker salary.
It's very easy for someone to say it's not about money until you have to figure out how you're going to feed your kids and clothe them and where are they going to sleep at night.
Even so,
I realized, like, I have to go. I have to leave. I took some clothes out that he wouldn't notice for the boys and I filed for a personal protection order.
she took the boys and fled to her sister's home in Canada.
Once my ex-husband realized we were gone and that he had been served that order, it was, I'm so sorry, I want you back, I'll do whatever it takes, I'll go to rehab. But then once he realized that wasn't working is when the threats started.
In 2009, the marriage was over, but Nicole and Kevin's story was not. How bad did it get?
It got very bad.
When we come back,
What did he say? What happened to you?
That he would slit my throat, that he would hunt me down.
these days, fear is a constant in Nicole Beverly's life. She's always looking over her shoulder, never feeling secure. She has been telling her story to authorities for years, but she is still battling her husband's threats in and out of court.
He approached me at my son's football practice saying he was going to slit my throat.
Carter Beverly has been living with these threats of violence for most of his life. You're 14, so you're in 8th grade or 9th grade?
8th grade.
6 foot, 6'1", 200 pounds, 8th grade. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's been 6 years since Carter has seen his dad. He was 7, his brother Miles 11, when their parents divorced. Nicole's mom, Sally, remembers picking them up after a visit with their father.
We're driving down the road, and all of a sudden, Miles just starts sobbing, crying so hard. He said, "My dad hit me." But he told me I can't tell. He said, if I tell, he said, you know what raw hamburger looks like? That's what your mother's face will look like if I tell.
Nicole did everything she could to hide her new address from her ex-husband, but he still tracked her down.
He would call me and say things like, whose car's in your driveway? Why are your lights on? He came to my house one day and he threw a cigarette in my face, was threatening me.
She called the police. Deputy Paul Corey volunteered to take the call. He recognized Nicole and Kevin's names from a previous altercation.
After having several interactions with them, I was beginning to see that he was taking advantage of his police background to kind of play up a relationship with me as being, former brothers in blue.
Officer Corey understood the dangerousness of the situation, finally.
I could tell that he was trying to push me in a certain direction. I called my sergeant up and I asked if I could go arrest this guy.
Kevin was arrested and charged with misdemeanor domestic violence and spent 1 night in jail before being released. You torture a dog? You're going away in most places now.
Yes.
You do the equivalent to your spouse, and you do not get years in prison automatically.
The first instance will likely result in probation, maybe 90 days in jail.
Typically for domestic violence cases, they're not allowed to have any contact with the victim of the case. He was unable to keep himself from making contact with her.
He repeatedly violated Nicole's personal protection order. He was soon charged with stalking.
I would be having dinner with friends and he would show up at our table. He would be looking through the window. I mean, he was actively stalking me.
Nicole's mom and sister remember it was unnerving.
You went to the police department and they looked out the window and they said, "Does he drive a white car?" And you said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, guess what? He's stalking you right here at the police department."
Nicole fought for a court order forcing Kevin to surrender his guns. In Michigan, that's not automatic.
Even if there's a domestic violence conviction and a personal protection order, they do not take guns away from people.
The presence of guns increases the likelihood of murder in these cases by more than 500%. That's according to the American Journal of Public Health. And getting a hold of a gun stayed on Kevin's mind. In his 2011 witness statement, a mutual friend stated that Kevin asked him if he knew where he could get a gun and that he would blow her brains out. He also asked if he knew anyone who could take out his ex-wife. Desperate, Nicole gathered proof of the threats and went to his probation officers.
When they instructed him that they were going to arrest him for the threats he was making towards me, he fought off the probation officers and he fled the building. I got a phone call telling me I needed to get my belongings and get to a safe place.
Kevin went on the run for 5 days, but kept calling and threatening. These are just some of his text messages from that period.
Saving up for a gun to shoot me and my ex. And then this one too. I'm seriously thinking of shooting her than myself. Got a gun I can borrow?
To another friend, want to kill that bitch, although my kids would suffer.
U.S. Marshals finally caught up with him in a motel in Dearborn, Michigan, and locked him up.
People versus Kevin Beverly, 12162.
In court 7 months later, a plea deal for time served was on the table.
Your Honor, a lot of what my ex-wife said was either just not true or exaggerations. I do understand that that our marriage is over, our relationship is over. I'm moving on with my life. I've spent 7.5 months in jail. That's been a very humbling experience for me.
Nicole appealed to the judge.
Your Honor, I want to take this opportunity to express my grave concern and fear of Mr. Beverly and what he intends to do to me once he's released from jail. I am terrified that he will not stop until he actually kills me or severely disables or disfigures me.
Kevin tried to downplay his threats.
There were some things, some heated conversations that we had in that regard, but me threatening to kill her and maim her.
Stop it, Mr. Beverly. This isn't going to work. That's exactly the sort of excuse-making rationalization that I've heard from you each time you've been here, and I see at this point no hope.
The sentence? 15 months to a maximum of 5 years behind bars. But that did not end Nicole's torment. During the course of his incarceration, authorities contacted her, telling her his fellow inmates informed them Kevin was plotting revenge.